There is something quietly unusual about a person who moves through the digital world without leaving a trace. They're there, they see everything, they scroll through the lives of others with a kind of thoughtful attention that most people never notice, but they never post. No photos of their morning coffee, no updates about their weekend, no carefully worded captions about how they are feeling or where they have been, just silence. And that silence, in a world built entirely around visibility, is one of the most psychologically interesting choices a person can make. You probably know someone like this, or maybe, if you were being honest with yourself, you are someone like this. And the question that always follows is the same. Why? Why would someone choose to stay invisible when every platform, every notification, every algorithmic nudge is designed to pull them into the light? It would be easy to say they are shy or introverted or simply not interested, but none of those explanations reach the truth. Because beneath the surface of that stillness, there is an entire interior world operating at full volume, and understanding it reveals something profound, not just about the people who stay quiet, but about all of us. Social media did not just give us a place to communicate, it quietly restructured how we understand ourselves. It built a system that rewards display and punishes absence, a system where visibility became synonymous with value, where being seen became the primary way of proving you exist. And most of us stepped into that system without realizing we had agreed to its terms. But some people paused at the door. They looked at the system and something in them resisted. Not loudly, not with a public declaration, just a quiet internal refusal. A sense that reducing their life into a series of shareable moments felt like losing something they could not quite name, but were not willing to give up. Researchers have found something worth paying attention to here. People who consistently refrain from posting tend to score higher on measures of self-restraint, introspection, and emotional independence. They are less susceptible to social comparison and less dependent on external approval to regulate how they feel about themselves. They are not performing who they are. They are still in the process of understanding it. And in a world that has mistaken performance for identity, that distinction matters enormously. Because most of what we post is not simply communication. Look closely and you will see it as something closer to an audition. Every photo, every caption, every carefully timed update is a quiet question sent out into the world. This is who I am. Do you approve? The like button is just the most honest version of what social interaction has always contained, the need to be accepted, reflected back to us in real time and made visible. And when you step away from that feedback loop, something unexpected happens. You stop translating your life into content before you have even finished living it. You stop mentally composing the caption before the moment is over. You start being inside your experiences instead of hovering above them, deciding what angle makes them worth sharing. That is the hidden psychology of people who do not post. They have found, usually through some combination of instinct and experience, that the moment you share something, you change your relationship to it. There's a concept researchers call psychological ownership, the felt sense that an experience truly belongs to you. And when you post it, that ownership quietly dissolves. The moment becomes public property, open to interpretation, to judgment, to the quiet violence of being misunderstood by someone who is not there. So people who keep their lives private are often doing something deliberate. They are protecting their ownership of their own story. And if this is landing somewhere real for you, take a second to subscribe and leave a like. This channel exists to explore the psychology underneath everyday human behavior, and there is a lot more where this came from. Some people arrive at silence after a long road in the other direction. They were once people who shared freely, who documented and posted with genuine enthusiasm, until one day it stopped feeling real. They noticed that every time they shared something meaningful, a subtle pressure arrived alongside it. A pressure to maintain the image, to keep the version of themselves they had put online consistent and appealing. They were no longer living their life, they were managing it. And when that realization landed, they went quiet. Not dramatically, just a slow retreat from the feed until one day they simply were not there anymore. What is often misread as withdrawal is actually something closer to reclamation. Because there is a real difference between being absent and being present somewhere else. The people who stop posting do not disappear, they just stop disappearing into the screen.
They come back to the physical texture of their own life, cooking a meal without photographing it, walking somewhere without tagging it, feeling something without translating it into language designed for an audience. And in that unmediated experience, something that had gone quiet in them starts speaking again. But not every quiet person online is operating from peace. Some are held there by fear. Psychologists describe something called self-presentational pressure, the persistent background awareness of being watched and evaluated, even in the absence of an actual audience. For people sensitive to this, the thought of posting is almost impossible. They anticipate the silence of being ignored more than they can bear, so they say nothing, not because they have nothing to say, but because the stakes of saying it feel too high. They want connection, they want to be seen, but they want to be seen accurately, without the distortions that come with a 15-second first impression, and that kind of seeing rarely happens online. There is something almost philosophical about choosing invisibility in an age that treats visibility as a moral virtue. The people who do not post understand something most of us are still working toward. Not everything you experience is meant to be witnessed. Some of the most important things that will ever happen to you, the private transformations, the grief that changes your shape, the slow growth that happens in the dark, will occur without a single person watching. No documentation, no validation, just you becoming. And when you have lived through enough of those invisible moments and found that they were the ones that mattered most, the need to broadcast begins to feel beside the point. There's a psychological term worth knowing here: internal locus of control. It describes the degree to which a person sources their sense of worth from within, rather than from the reactions of others. People with a strong internal locus of control do not need digital approval to feel real. They already know what they think of themselves. The algorithm has no leverage over them. And in a system designed specifically to monetize your need for validation, that is an extraordinary kind of freedom. Research backs this up. People who take extended breaks from posting consistently report increases in emotional stability, life satisfaction, and a stronger sense of personal identity. Because when you stop receiving a curated reflection of yourself from the world, you have to build your sense of self from the inside out. And what gets built that way is solid. It does not shift with the news cycle or collapse when a post underperforms. It simply is. But it is important to be honest about the harder version of this too. Sometimes the silence is not serenity. Sometimes it is exhaustion. There are people who went quiet not from strength, but from depletion, who watched everyone performing happiness and felt increasingly hollow trying to keep pace, who eventually decided the only way to stop losing was to leave the game entirely. That is not weakness. That is self-preservation. Because one of the quieter cruelties of social media is that it has taught us to confuse visibility with value, to believe that things which go unwitnessed are somehow less real, less worthy. But the moments that shape you most deeply are almost never the ones you posted. They're the ones that happened in private, that no one else saw, that left a mark only you can feel. The conversation that changed how you see yourself, the night you sat with something difficult and did not run from it, the small act of courage that no one applauded. Those are the things that make you who you are, and they happened in silence. Choosing not to post can be a way of refusing to be split in two, of insisting on staying whole, of saying that your inner experience does not need external verification to be valid. And here is what you will find in the people who have made that choice. They notice things. The way light moves across a wall in the late afternoon. The pause before someone says something they have been holding back. They are present in a way that has become genuinely unusual because they are not simultaneously producing content from their own life. They are simply living it. That presence makes them easy to misread, distant perhaps, hard to know. But spend real time with someone who does not post and you will almost always find the opposite. They are not closed, they are specific. They do not spread themselves thin across hundreds of shallow connections. They go deep with a few. They save their stories for when you are sitting across from them, not across from a screen. And when they tell you something, you know it is real because they did not share it with everyone else first. So, the next time you notice someone who never posts, resist the easy interpretation. Consider instead that they may have simply remembered something the rest of us are still trying to find our way back to. That a life does not need to be witnessed to be fully lived. That some things are more beautiful for being kept. That silence is not the absence of something. It is often the presence of everything that matters. We were not built to be performances. We were built to be people.